Welcome back to the Miserable Podcast. We are here today at our office in Brickyard, Woodbridge.
The way Jeremy looked at you for clapping.
Like, don't do that.
I was so conflicted. I was like, yeah, that's exciting, but no, that's bad.
We're not that happy that we're back.
Let's start over.
All right.
The suspense. Welcome back to the Miserable Podcast. Gosh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be a bad one. Just stop listening. Whoever's listening right now.
The bad ones are always the best.
Go do something. The worst ones are the best.
Because we just like.
We said from the first day, expect anything from this podcast and expect nothing.
So far, nothing.
Welcome back to the Miserable Podcast. I'm sitting here today with Polly Pie Howard and Kenny K. Soul Thompson. Or Andres, as he would like to be called.
Is that what I said?
Yep.
All right. Let's go with it.
Yeah, we're going to do a podcast today.
Why is that such an issue for you every single time?
And he knows. He's like going to set it down and he's looking at me like hoping I won't notice or hear it. And then it's
just what I need is like a rubber coaster. So it just doesn't.
We need to get you a separate side table.
I could put food and beverage on it.
Something you can hit.
With cheese on it.
With a gavel. Ooh, I like cheese on it. Mm-hmm. Would like cheese on it.
All right. Today's podcast, we are going to talk about how it is we actually record this podcast.
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah. So we have released 11 episodes at the recording of this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not including Casual Friday. So 22, I guess, technically podcast videos.
I think it'd be 21 because we have done one Casual Friday a week, but week one we did 2 podcasts.
Do we have a Casual Friday for this week? No.
We recorded one with
we filmed
Clark.
one with Clark.
Yeah, but we're not releasing those yet.
Oh, putting that out with them.
So we need to do that today as we plan the podcast on the podcast recording.
21.
So yeah, somewhere around there. We have done it multiple locations, multiple ways with multiple cameras, multiple setups. And we're
multiple attempts to remove the glare from our branding.
We are going to discuss where we're at now. For those wondering, we may get into kind of what we were using at first, but not too much. Let's just stick to what we're talking about now because we did cover that on another episode. So yeah, let me begin with the audio. And then I'm going to do the audio piece, and then I'm leaving, and you guys can talk about the other stuff. No. So this is how we record the audio. I have my Surface Pro set up in the corner. It is connected to a Focusrite Scarlett 18i20 audio interface. We are using 3 different types of mics connected to that interface.
These aren't the same?
They're similar. This is an AKG 220. This is an AKG 420.
Stay in your lane.
Forgive me.
Those are running directly into the interface. They are condenser microphones. This is a dynamic microphone in front of me. This is a Shure SM7B. This one is actually running into what is called a Cloudlifter that gives it a clean gain boost. And then it's running into the audio interface. This is a very popular microphone for broadcast, radio, podcasting. And it is because it is just a great microphone for that purpose. These 2 microphones aren't exactly ideal, but they do get the job done. There is a little bit of a tone difference between my mic and their mics. Not huge, not a big deal. One day we will invest in like microphones across the board. But as of right now, this works. So let's talk about the rough ballpark figures of what these microphones cost. This SM7B is about a $400 microphone, and the Cloudlifter is about $100. Do you have to have the Cloudlifter? Let's just say yes. Basically, anybody that uses this microphone uses some sort of preamp to boost the gain, because this is an older style microphone that doesn't have as much gain output as some of these other dynamic microphones that use phantom power. If you don't know what any of that means, it's okay. You don't have to have any of these microphones to do a podcast. This is just a good way to start. So again, the whole signal chain is basically microphone, XLR cable. In this microphone's case, there is a Cloudlifter, then going into the interface. The interface is connected USB into my computer, and we actually record this podcast on Propellerhead's Reason software. So I would love to be sponsored by Reason personally. And if they want to endorse this podcast, that would be cool.
If for some reason they're listening.
They're not. Guarantee it.
He just wanted to say reason.
I just wanted to make a joke.
Thank you. So yeah, like I said, the setup isn't actually ideal. It could be better, but it works, and it's what we have. And there are other places we're trying to invest first, because we can actually record good audio, and there's things that we can't do that we want to invest in first. One of the goals that I would like to do, I'm really interested in things like the Rode Podcaster, which would replace the audio interface and the computer altogether. It's a little device that you just connect the microphones to, and it records onto an SD card, or you can connect it USB to your computer. That would be really cool. It has some built-in settings, parameters, and presets that kind of just make podcasting a little easier. It's a piece of hardware specifically made for doing this.
How much is that?
$500. It's like $500 right around there. Maybe 600, maybe 400, but I'm pretty sure it's about 500. But that's the Rode Podcaster. You can actually multi-track record, so you're not just recording all three mics on one line. You can actually record all three mics separately and then mix them and edit them separately and then mix them down afterwards, which is really important. Yeah, so that's, I think, either the podcast mic that Rode does to go with that, or two more of these SM7Bs would be kind of like the ideal setup. These are like the standard Sony professional studio headphones. They're right at $100. They work perfect. They're
I like them.
nice and flat and comfortable. So we've recorded first we started recording in my parents' basement because it was like the only place where there wasn't kids and a lot of noise, and it was a big space, and it was just convenient. They don't use it, so we could leave stuff set up. We eventually moved in here to this space, which has been really, really good. The Brickyard people have been really, really good to us. So we're kind of moving in still, making it our home. We've been here a few weeks. We recently did some acoustic treatment. Again, kind of the same boat as the mics. It's not perfect. It's not ideal, but it does help. You don't know how long we're going to be in this space, in this specific office or whatever, so you don't want to do too much, but you also want to make sure that there's not a lot of room sound. So being that it's a small room, we're using absorption, so it's actually like foam panels. You can see probably two of them in the frame here. There's two more of those over there, and then there's 8 other panels on the other side. One of the challenges we have is the back side of the office is actually all glass. So we could put something there, but then you would see it from the other side. So we're not really that worried about it. The podcast sounds good enough, in my opinion.
Yerp.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Did I miss anything on the audio side? Okay. So in post-production, what I do is we record into a Reason session that already has gating, EQ. Obviously, I do a low cut, take all the bass out for when Pauly hits the table, and all of those things. So all of those things are already in the session. Bounce the session out, and then I put it into Ozone, where I have a podcast preset where I master it, just bring the level up, take some of the noise out, cut and print. It can take, the computer that I have is an i7, 16 gig of RAM, the one that we use for the podcast. And then actually the one that I use at home is 32 gig i7. With these hour and a half long podcasts, it can take a little bit of time. I would say to do the exports, let's say one podcast, it probably takes
We're still talking about the audio.
Talking about just the audio, probably takes me a good, I want to say half an hour just to export out of Reason and then to import and export out of Ozone. It's not too bad, but it's large files, and that's just the audio. And I also do the podcast video, and that's a whole different beast, but we'll get there eventually as far as the putting the audio with the video. That is the one video thing that I do in the miserable company. So I think that's a good, solid breakdown of the audio. Some of the challenges that we're encountering right now, number one, is the way that we have the microphone set up when somebody sets a can down, when Pauly sets a can down, this glass table with the microphone sitting on it, that can cause a little bit of issues, not a huge problem. The room, there is still some room noise. It's not completely dead in here. And because of the nature of how the microphones are set up, like you said before we started recording, you have a lot of real estate. So you can sit back and then you're not right up in the mic. So those are some of the things that we could fix. We could mount the microphones on arms. We could put them on the floor, on mic stands, and that might help. Different things that we can do. This is probably the cleanest and least obtrusive setup because they're all just here. You don't have stands and everything. That would be really annoying. And even arms, sometimes they can just get cumbersome. So I think that this is all around probably the best way to do it right now.
That we know of.
Yeah. There's probably some magical floating microphone somewhere.
Did you talk about the stands at all? The mic stands?
No, these are Gator mic stands. These were like $35 a piece. They're weighted on the front. So if you watch some of the older podcasts, Pauly, Phil, whoever was on this microphone knocked it over a few times because it wasn't weighted correctly. It was this kind of mic stand that is on my SM7B, but this one is weighted correctly. So it's different. It doesn't hang off to one side. But yeah, so these were like $35. These microphones, I don't think I ever covered it. I want to say, and I'll confirm this while you guys are talking. I'll look it up, but just a couple $100, maybe like $100 for the 220, and then maybe $300 for the AKG 420 or something like that.
Those Rode podcast mics are
$99, I think. Yeah.
I actually have that mic. I do all my spoken words on the 220.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up now just to get. So the 220 is 150. After a quick search here, and the 420 is 200. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So not bad at all. And there's some differences between them.
Me and Pauly keep making awkward eye contact.
I was doing that on purpose.
Oh, I was like, is he still looking? I didn't know what to do. Sorry.
I'm sorry. So I think that's it audio wise. I think
The sound panels are from Vintage King.
Vintage King. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tall ceiling in here, so that's one of the challenges. It's all hard surfaces, all perpendicular, and it's a really high ceiling. So most of the acoustic treatment is up high because there are desks and bodies and things down lower that kind of help.
The floor is carpeted too.
The floor is carpeted. Ceiling tiles. The ceiling is tiled.
Tiled.
Tealing silence.
I'm not like an acoustics expert. There's like people that actually do this for a living. It said when we bought it how much square footage that it could kind of cover and kind of basically how you want to set it up. I've done a couple spaces. I kind of had a decent idea of what it would be like.
Do we plan to do anything with the ceiling as far as sound treatment goes? No? Because I know some people put
because
those...
it's like the styrofoam tiles or whatever that is.
Right.
And then we got carpet down here.
No. So we're straight.
Yeah. They probably make like acoustic treatment ceiling tiles for drop-ins.
I'm sure they do, yeah.
I think they do, for sure.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears. Then that's the audio. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, maybe this will help you out a little bit. And we'll put all of these things. I'm going to sit here and make a list while we're recording of the things I've mentioned so that we can put it in the description on YouTube. So people can look at them themselves if they'd like and have a reference. So let's switch from audio. Let's get into the video and we can talk about quickly what we used to use and then what we're using now.
All right. Well, audio, I think, is the most important thing for a podcast. But so you could also, kind of place your podcast on various platforms. It's important to invest in video as well. So me and Polly usually handle setup for the video. So starting out, it was really rough. We kind of used what we had, which was my Canon 80D and then 2 Nikons. Or did we even use the Canon at the time? Maybe it was no, it was your camera. It was your Nikon and then the 2. Yeah, I can't remember the models, the bodies that they were.
Mine, which is a Nikon D750. Technically, we never put that podcast out. There are some clips from it on our YouTube channel and some other places. We never put that podcast out, but that first attempt was 3 DSLRs. It was my Nikon D750 and then...
the LED panels.
Yeah, the other 2 cameras were like lower level, like D3500 or something like that. We used LED panels. We did the 3 cameras because we had like sort of 3 different shots. And that's what we wanted at first, was a little bit more variety in the position. But in the process of like just trying to step our game up with the quality of the product, we looked into simplifying like how we actually shot it.
And the quality was great. It was the process was too cumbersome. Yeah. And we had a camera on each one of us, and the challenge was that each camera had a 30-minute limit. So a lot of times we're in the middle of a conversation and we had to kind of like time it, stop it, and then kind of start where we were, which kind of just interrupts the whole process and it doesn't make the podcast as fluid as it should be.
Sure. Plus post-production on that was the biggest problem.
Right.
We had 3 different cameras for multicam with, depending on how long we talked, at least 3 to 4 clips for each camera. So we were managing, like 12 pieces of footage for one podcast. When we decided to sort of downsize the way we did it and just rethinking the process, we decided that one single camera angle where, everyone was in one shot would be the easiest way to go about it. You and I like sent back a few things, like we looked at like an f-stoppers video and a few other things. And we kind of settled on a single shot with everyone in the shot. And then so what we did was we needed a camera at that time that can record without the 20 or 30 minute time limit that traditional DSLRs have. But you also, didn't have a ton of money to invest in a camera system. So I had actually bought the GoPro Hero 8 on sale on Black Friday. And we used that for like eight or so podcasts, Casual Fridays,
a few
a
of
bunch
them.
of the stuff. And that worked. We were able to get a wide enough shot to have everybody in it. Jeremy is pulling a me.
Made no sound.
No sound at all. It worked visually. We were able to get everybody in the shot. It wasn't the best looking. Colors weren't great. Resolution, or not resolution, but clarity, and noise performance as far as like grain in the shots. Shooting in somewhat of a low light situation. But it got the job done. We used a mixture of a couple different lights. We had some newer LED panels. And I think for a couple, we also used the light that we use now, which is a
Godox SL series.
Yeah, SL60, I believe.
60 watt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right now we have it on a C stand with like a 47-inch octabox, umbrella style. Single light, single camera, something that can just minimize it. We had, when we started out, we had 4 or 5 lights and 4 cameras, one angle we didn't use. Now we're down to, for the way we're doing it, 1 camera, 1 light. Much easier setup, easier to put up and break down.
And to put it in context, what we found after doing that test podcast that we had 3 cameras, whatever, as we were like, look, if we're going to do 2 podcasts a week, this has got to be easy. Mm-hmm. And this is not easy.
It just took hours.
So, yeah,
hours.
so we basically have, it's really the art of reductionism. Like, how small can we make it and how easy can we make it? And this isn't the end game for us. We would like to do different things, and we'll get into that too, maybe about like the switcher and stuff. But for right now, this is like, we do the podcast, we do the videos, we do the unbookings, we're running the social media, we're doing multiple pieces of content, the inspirational quotes and designs, we're working with clients, we're doing all of these things while we're juggling our personal lives and families and things. So, yeah, the biggest reason, single camera, single light, is just we're doing a lot, and it has to be easy.
Yeah, the time we
have to be
spending
efficient.
Was just wasteful.
Yeah.
For what it could be. As far as camera goes, we have upgraded. We're now using a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. It's micro 4/3, and we're using a Rokinon 16 millimeter T 2.2 aperture. It's a cinema lens. Has what's it called? Unclicked aperture. It's fully manual, but the camera itself allows for assistance. It's got focus peaking, so you can, it's easier to see when images are in focus. Great big screen on it. Great color representation and, just depth for color, as well as quality or potential for quality. We're not using the camera at the moment to its full visual potential on purpose, because the one thing that we discovered early on was how large the files were. I mean, we didn't really know. I had experience with the first generation of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, and they were data hogs and battery hogs and all that, but it wasn't quite the same as it is now. The resolution increase has made a big difference, but we were seeing like a gig per minute of footage.
It was wild.
Which, filming an hour and a half long podcast, we're gonna like eat up hard drives.
And then you're just, again, the time it takes to just transfer,
process and transfer,
process all of those files.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kenny? What is like some of the things moving forward that you would like to do or do differently than what we're doing now as far as the video is concerned?
The biggest thing for me right now, I'd like to have a permanent setup. That way, anytime we just need to record, because one, it saves on time, and then two, it just makes life, that much easier. But anytime we want to record, we could just come in, sit down, just hit boom, boom on everything. And I'm sure you feel the same with the audio, just permanent setup.
And the audio is
mostly
it's permanent. I mean, I've got to hook my computer up, and we take the headphones down just to clean up the room. But I mean, it's mainly permanent. But that podcaster would help a lot too, because that would eliminate all of these cables, and all of these cables running across it would be one. So that would be cool. The light is the biggest issue, right? Because the tripod and the camera, that's not like it. We're going to be taking that down a lot anyway to use it.
Right.
So it's mainly the lighting. That softbox.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
You got it.
The Octobox umbrella style. See, I know what I'm doing. And that stand, they're just so annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, and we could leave it up. It's just aesthetically for the office. Like I said, it's all glass. So people walking by, we want to be well represented and seem like we got it together and we're neat.
Elmer Fudd, well represented.
Well represented. Okay. Let's, anything else on that?
Right.
Yeah, I know we all keep like.
Anything else on that?
Tell us how it looks now, because we've made a little adjustments in the files. If you guys think the first couple of videos that we did in this space versus now.
Yeah, I went back and did clips. We were pulling clips out of all the podcasts. And it was just crazy how even kind of unwittingly, or that's probably not the word, just without noticing how much better the quality has gotten especially from the GoPro jumping to this, but even the space and the lighting and so it's like, y'all know me, I'm very critical. When I look at, the first thing I look at is all of the deficiencies. And then I'm like, all right, now I can just watch it. So, it was cool going back to like episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then in the same day, dissecting episodes 7, 8, and going like, whoa, this is so different. So yeah, that was
even going from 7 and 8 to 11 or 10 and 11 or 9, 10 and 11, whatever. Because we were shooting towards the corner. We didn't have like our logo up on the wall. And it's a simple thing, but I think like
just a little more. The first ones in the corner here were so boring looking,
just plain. Yeah.
But again, it's just like, and this goes back to a lot of what we've talked about on the podcast. It's just like, okay, like it's not going to be perfect, but just do it.
Well, the only reason we shot in that corner was when we, first moved into the space and we were planning the layout of everything in our heads. We've since changed some things around and it's not permanent either, but we thought that would be a good place to leave the setup where it wasn't, intruding on anything else that we might do in the space. But it wasn't balanced there. We're sitting in the corner of a room. It was just probably was never going to look good.
So we moved the desk. We just rearranged the whole room and tried to do it like this. So.
Yeah, I think another thing that I want to do in the future too is this camera has the capability to, you can bake LUTs into your image before you export it.
What?
So basically,
color profiles.
Just for the people out there, can you explain to what I know what that is.
So a LUT stands for a lookup table. And basically it's just to simplify it, it's almost like an Instagram filter, kind of. You kind of change the colors and the way your image looks by putting a filter. So you shoot flat, which means your image looks very plain, very kind of grayed out, and you put a LUT on it and it kind of brings color and kind of breathes life into the image, right? And contrast and all those different things. So there's different types of LUTs for different types of looks. And so what a LUT will do is it'll allow us to put that LUT on the image so that in post, you don't have to worry about processing because you'll be able to see what it looks like. You can apply it to the image so that when you export it, it's already in there, or you can apply it to see what it would look like. So once you do it in post, right, a preview, so you can just apply it and then you're done. So
let's talk about when we're done recording, then we have an audio recording in Reason, and then we have a video file on the camera memory card. I then take those home to my workstation computer, the beast at home, and I do what I mentioned with the audio, mastering the audio. We really don't do any editing. So we press record on both of them, and then I just figure out a starting point that's not absolutely ridiculous or terrible. And then whatever happens or is said, we just leave in. And that makes it easier too, but also I think that
it's authentic.
It's authentic. And I think people appreciate that. And it's just, we got mess ups in it. We got all sorts of stuff. Who cares? It's life. It's real life. So, I go in, use Premiere Pro. I drop in the footage. I have a project now, basically with a single sequence. I drop the footage in on the sequence. I leave everything else as is. Find the starting point that I want for the video. Then I take the mastered audio, drop it in. I usually sync it myself because it's just easier than trying to do the synchronize in Premiere sometimes. I just sync up the audio, and then most of the time I'm doing more than one, so I cue it with Media Encoder, and then after 4 or 5 podcast videos are queued, I press export and go to sleep. And wake up in the morning with beautiful files. That was me. Pulling tape off my headphone cable. I don't know. It's like driving me crazy. And then I do some color correction in Premiere Pro. No clue. Don't claim to know what I'm doing. It's just like more contrast. And then slide the saturation until it looks like real life. And then I export it. That's pretty much it.
Because we are still filming these in a flatter color profile, even though we're not using LUTs. So,
yep. Then we upload the audio onto Podbean, which we use for hosting, and then put the video on YouTube.
Podbean disperses it to other platforms: Spotify,
Correct.
Google,
Apple, yeah.
Amazon.
So you can go to themiserablepodcast.com to find this podcast if you have never heard of it. But you're listening to it now, so it was a trick.
I was like, wait a minute, huh?
I was like, where are you going with this?
Anything else? If you have any questions, and if you're like interested in starting a podcast, and you want to know like, okay, what's the, I want to start it, but I don't want to put any money into it, you can do that. Like, I think even Podbean has like a free podcast hosting service. I don't know how much you actually get to upload or whatever, but there are cheaper ways of doing it. You could even just start on YouTube. That's free. You could do it with your phone and your phone camera. And then you could just go from there. You could attach a microphone to your phone to make the audio a little better. Then you could attach the microphone to a camera to make the video a little bit better. Then you can, attach the microphone to a computer, and then,
Yeah.
So there you can kind of take this in bite-sized chunks. And if you want some help with that, we can answer some questions for sure. Kenny and Polly definitely stronger in the visual portion of it. And audio is my forte. So feel free to reach out to us. And you can do that by emailing contact@themiserablecompany.com, or you can hit us up on Instagram, IG, MyG, or all of MySpace. And
also here's Jeremy's phone number if you have any questions.
it's 911. No, all right.
Just 911.
555 1 2 3 4. So yeah, I
His
think
real phone number across the bottom.
is that good?
Yeah.
Is there anything else to talk about at this point? I feel like we might just start rambling about stuff. Here goes Polly.
Say something
No,
stupid.
I was going to say we have one thing that we've battled with is glare on this this vinyl or whatever this
Reach
thing
in-
is. This
Reach in
giant,
that top drawer right there and hand me that.
this giant sticker. When we first got it up there, I had like, oh, nice, getting low, huh?
I don't know why I wanted to do that.
Jerk. Anyways, we had problem with glare. Like no matter where
Is it still glaring right now for the people that are watching?
Yeah, I
YouTube?
think it's a little bit of glare over here and over here, but we had a problem with glare no matter where we put the light and the camera. Like even if it was pointing away, it was still somehow catching glare. So
It's just a vinyl. It's got a pretty bright sheen to it.
Charlie Sheen.
Oil sheen.
So what we did is I saw this on Amazon. It's dulling spray by Krylon. I think it was like $5. I don't know. Everything's either $5 or 50 or 500. So this was like the $5 category. And I've actually just kind of tested it because we didn't know if the chemicals in it would eat the vinyl, which would suck really bad. So we've sprayed kind of below his eyes and above the bridge of his nose, and it's working. We just need to finish it. We didn't want to do it tonight because there's a lot of people in the building, and it smells like spray paint. So yeah, this is the worst podcast. I literally went and listened to I was listening to a podcast today, and it was a different podcast. And I was like, man, this is so good. And I was like, our podcast might suck. I don't know. But that'll be a good topic for the next podcast. I want us to talk about our insecurities in doing this so far and what we've noticed that we're like,
Not personal.
yeah, personal.
All right, let's get
We're going to get real. But that's for the next recording. It might release before this one. So, yeah, we don't know what we're doing.
Nope.
And we don't have a plan. That it?
Yep.
That's it. Don't start a podcast.
That's the title of this. Don't start a podcast.